Stephen Nagy is professor at International Christian University, and he joins us from Tokyo. Stephen, a very good afternoon your side, and thank you for joining us today. It was a very busy couple of days for the Prime Minister in the United States. He had the bilateral summit with the U.S., then there was a state dinner, and then he met with both houses of Congress. And it was a 35-minute speech in English. I want to start with the speech there and the takeaway from the meeting with Congress. What were the key takeaways for you?
I think the key takeaways, Emily, really is that Japan stands side by side with the United States in terms of supporting international order based on rule of law, that Japan is willing to step up to the plate and add value to the alliance by working with the United States, but also working with other partners such as the Philippines, Australia, and India through minilateral relations such as the Quad or the emerging maritime cooperative activities between Australia, Japan, the United States, and the U.S. We're going to continue to see this. Lastly, and I think importantly, the Prime Minister recognized the importance and the indispensable role that the United States plays in terms of peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific and globally. And Japan wants to make sure that it can support the United States to continue that role, but continue that role with support from Japan and other allies.
Now, the unity with Japan and even the Philippines now, because there was the first ever trilateral summit, and they even issued a joint vision statement saying that there is serious concern over China's dangerous and aggressive behavior in the South China Sea. What is the biggest thing to come out of this trilateral summit?
Well, I think there's clear recognition from Manila, Tokyo, and Washington that Beijing's actions in the South China Sea threaten about $5.5 trillion of trade that is ferried through the South China Seas. This is incredibly important not only for the region's economy, but for the global economy. And without working together with like-minded countries like the Philippines, Japan, and the United States, that Beijing's actions can not only cause territorial problems and friction in the South China Sea, but it could spill over and cause a global economic catastrophe. And I think this is a really important aspect of thinking about the South China Sea. It's not just a territorial dispute between China and Southeast Asian countries. In fact, it has global repercussions in terms of a potential disruption to the global economy.
And when you speak about the South China Sea, China declares 80% of it as its own sovereign territory. And just earlier, I was reading that the Chinese Coast Guard had patrolled the territorial waters of the Diaoyu Islands, also known as the Senkakus, which is disputed between China and Japan. Do you expect more of this to continue or it to potentially even escalate?
We're likely to see China put pressure on Japan and the Philippines in different ways. If there are more joint activities between Tokyo, Washington, and Manila in the South China Sea, we're likely to see Beijing escalate some pressure across the Taiwan Strait, but also, as you mentioned, in the East China Sea vis-a-vis the Senkaku Islands. This is its past behavior, and it's likely to continue to do this. I wouldn't be surprised in the coming months as well as if we see joint Russian-Chinese vessels circumnavigating the region to demonstrate that they can also deploy resources within the region. It's a delicate dance, and it has the potential to cascade into a kinetic conflict. We should be concerned about this. And again, it's important that the eyes of the diplomatic community and many stakeholders really come to the table and put the resources into the region to preserve peace and stability in the region.
If you expect them to come together in terms of mini-lateral agreements, so which countries would be coming forward?
Well, we've already seen this with Australia, the United States, Japan, and the Philippines working on what we could call a Quad 2.0 in terms of providing some maritime security cooperation in the South China Sea. We're likely to see other minilaterals step up to the plate. The South Korean, Japan, U.S. minilaterals would focus on Northeast Asia and weapons proliferation on the Korean Peninsula. I wouldn't be surprised if we see other minilateral agreements work on search and rescue operations in the South China Sea, or perhaps humanitarian disaster and assistant relief in the South China Sea as well, to demonstrate and build those interoperability capabilities and to provide some cooperation within the region. And it sends a signal to Beijing that these minilateral relationships, although not alliances, can add value to the broader security footprint within the region, demonstrating that like-minded countries are coming together to provide public goods to the region, but also support each other's security initiatives and priorities.
Stephen, just a quick one here, and I have to ask you about Taiwan ahead of the inauguration of Washinton on May the 20th next month. What are you expecting? Anything?
Taiwan's an explosive issue, and everybody's concerned about the cross-strait relations. Again, by some estimates, $7.7 trillion of global economic damage could come from a conflict across the Taiwan Straits. We're expecting Beijing to escalate some pressure across the Taiwan Straits to send a signal to incoming President Lai that if he takes a pro-independence stance or a stance that deviates from the 1992 consensus, that Beijing will be unhappy and could escalate into further pressure. Countries like Japan, the U.S., and others are going to continue to enhance deterrence across the Taiwan Straits. They're going to try to send a message to Beijing that forced reunification, it will not be accepted. At the same time, they're going to send a signal to incoming President Lai that independence is also not going to be supported by these players. The priority is peace and stability across the Taiwan Straits, and that will be where they invest their resources.
Stephen, thank you so much. Stephen Nagy from International Christian University.